I love you.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm by myself. It's call the police, call somebody who matters because they gave your boy a shot. Welcome to Give Us a Shot Network. You are listening to Mike Hughes, aka the Shy Kid. Debuted episode, baby. Debuted episode. Got the new lid off Fanatics. Shout out to Fanatics, by the way, hooking it up. I didn't even pay for shipping. I got it in 2 days. How many times have we, paid $4.99 for 5 to 6 day shipping and it takes 8? But so shout out to them. They made it happen, made the fit work. But we got a lot to talk about today. Cubs baseball is less than 24 hours away. If you've been following me for a while, whether you're here from TikTok or Instagram, wherever, or you've just been seeing me around with Mike Powers and Germ, I am obsessed with these guys. I have been waiting all off season long to get Cody Bellinger back. We got him. We get a big free agent show to Imanago. Ooh, I'm feeling it. Got Seiya Suzuki batting over 450, but we're going to save it all for the show because we got a champ in the house. Courtney Colobro is joining the show today. I'm super excited to announce her because she is one of the biggest Texas Rangers fans I've seen, and she knows the game like no other. So we're welcoming to the show Courtney Colobro. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling like a champion. That's how I'm feeling. It feels good. It was I was back at Globe Life Field on Monday, and it was really nice being back there and seeing just some of the new features that they have in the ballpark commemorating the series. There's a bunch of murals now. It's a good feeling. Last time I was there was for the parade, and I don't exactly remember all of that. So
as you should. 2016. I won't confirm nor deny what a young 16-year-old Mike Hughes was doing in 2016 of November, but let's just say I couldn't tell you even if I wanted to. But
I don't think the feds on Clark and Addison were too worried about too worried about you.
No, not at all. They were worrying about greasing up them flagpoles to make sure nobody was jumping off them. Wasn't working. But man, we appreciate you for being here. First guest ever on the Shy Kid podcast. I'm excited about it. I wanna take it through first though. Let's backtrack. Let's get back to October, November, the dance. Talk to me about it. You were in full form, ready to ball out. The Rangers were doing their thing. World Series champions without Max Scherzer, without Jacob deGrom. I mean, how did it happen? Take me through the game plan of the Texas Rangers and how everything unfolded for people who are unfamiliar with what that team went through throughout the entirety of the season.
Yeah. So, listen, the first half of the season was electric, and then of course, All-Star break, everybody kind of has, you're hitting that wall. You have a little bit of fatigue. The Rangers fell out of first place. They were in first place in the AL West for a majority of the season. Unfortunately, ended in a little tiebreaker scenario, which in that head-to-head series, they did not win. So they did not win the division, and the Astros won their 7th consecutive AL West championship. And I'll never forget Alex Bregman doing the whole, I guess they wanted to know what would happen if we didn't win. Oh, I guess we'll never know, right? Well, that came back to bite them as the Rangers did pop up in that wild card spot and went on to win a historic 11 straight road games. Did not lose one game during the entirety of the playoffs on the road, which is just unheard of. Right. They weren't supposed to beat Tampa Bay, who they beat in that first series. They were not supposed to beat the Orioles, who they beat in that second series. They definitely were not supposed to beat the Astros, who they also beat in that series. So that's crazy. I dare say we're going to get a rematch of that again this year. Dare I say it's going to happen again. I don't want to speak too soon, especially with the Mariners kind of lurking in the background. But gosh, what a team, what a run that was.
No, for sure. And I love that you mentioned Bregman's point because I saw Corey Seager do the same thing, and
Correct.
I thought it was a beautiful thing. So like the energy, the vibe. I was huge on them going after Corey and them going after Simeon because we talk about it all the time. Prospects are great. The Cubs right now, and I'm itching to see these guys come up because we have the major league led prospects in the top 100 right now. We have
Mhm.
7, and I love that because it's great. But at the end of the day, you have to get pillars. And we always talk about the pillars of the organization. Wyatt Langford, great. The kid out of Vandy, great. And he will be named the kid out
Mhm.
of Vandy until he
That-
shows me.
Don't be
un-
disrespectful.
listen, I'm a Tennessee Volunteers fan. So
Okay.
until he shows me at the big league level that I
Okay.
should pronounce his name, we shall not speak of his name because I
Okay.
remember what he
All right.
did to us.
That's fair. I do have his picture floating around here somewhere from when I saw it. It was a crazy giveaway item from when
Yeah.
I saw him. Like it was his first minor league start,
Yeah.
actually. But I won't say his name. I
Of
won't.
course, of course. No, Jack is an absolute monster. And I'm excited to see what he could potentially be when you look at this rotation with the Rangers, but we'll get into that in a little. But like the point of all of it is, bringing in a winner. I don't care if you call it the Mickey Mouse Championship or not. Nonetheless, he's been to several World Series. He's been to the playoffs more times than I can count. And White Sox fans in the chat who are going to say anything about Corey Seager, please tell me how many times the White Sox have made it to the playoffs versus Corey Seager.
Correct.
So I love what we're seeing right now from them, bringing in veterans, bringing in winners. For you, how big of an impact was that for a lot of people who said, why would they bring in Simeon and Seager at the same time? Like a lot of people were questioning, the ability for them to play together on the contracts that they were able to
Yeah.
get. Were you excited about that initially, or was that something that you kind
Oh
of
yeah.
learned to love?
Oh yeah, for sure. That was I was not prepared for the Rangers to spend that much money that
I
fast.
don't think anybody
Like
was.
I to be honest, and I'm not trying to sound like negative or anything, but I don't think that any realistic Rangers fan was prepared for them to be this competitive this fast.
Right.
And for the guys that they've drafted to be ready to go as fast as they have been, right? Like, I don't think anyone was ready for Evan Carter to come up, not Aaron Carter, pardon me, for Evan Carter to come up last season. And I don't think anyone was really prepared for, I mean, but obviously people within the organization were prepared for Wyatt Langford to come up as DH
Right.
this year. That's why they didn't tender Mitch Garver another contract in the DH slot. But no one thought that the Rangers, and even myself included, and I'm on the record, so I'm here to just say it. I am on the record because I said, "Gosh, the Rangers are kind of stumbling into the postseason. Gosh, I don't want to see them get embarrassed, get shellacked in Tampa. I'd rather they just have not have made the playoffs, and then they beat Tampa, and then I had to go back on the record and say, "Oh my God, what was I talking about? That was so stupid of me."
Yeah.
Because they weren't supposed to be in that position, respectfully. And I love the Rangers, but like that bullpen and that rotation was pieced together with like chewing glue or chewing gum and Elmer's glue. It was
Right.
a mess. It was a mess. They did it, and that's a testament to one, obviously, clearly chemistry in that clubhouse. They probably had a lot of come to Jesus moments, but then also that leadership in Bruce Bochy. But that's why you go out and you get a guy like Bruce Bochy, right? Like
Right.
he's been the steward of how the captain of how many different World Series teams? Four World Series teams, three with the Giants.
I would definitely say I'm saying 3 or more without a
Mhm.
doubt. I would have to
Yeah,
put it
three
at
with the
that because
Giants.
you get every even year.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, no, yeah, most definitely. 4 is crazy when you really think about it. Not even that long ago
In the
too.
past, like
10
15
years,
years.
15 years, something crazy
Yeah,
like that.
that's madness.
It's
You
wild,
know?
but
Well,
I
yeah, the Rangers, they're now in that window though, right?
right,
Like the White Sox had their window a couple of years ago where it was
sure.
almost like, they could do something and then they just didn't do
You
anything.
talking about the wild card window? That's
Correct.
crazy,
That wild
crazy.
card window. Yes.
Yeah, that was all that ever lived. The World
Yes.
Series window and the wild card window. There's levels to this shit,
Right.
and the White Sox never
There's
hit it.
guys. I was just joking with some other people. I said, "Oh, I'm looking at they released their opening day.
Oh man, yeah,
And I said, "Oh, I know some of these words.
yeah,
Like
no,
that's
it's
you got Luis Robert and Eloy hanging on for dear life over
yep.
there."
Eloy's been hanging on for dear life way before anything, though,
Correct.
but I think here's my big question for you, because I think this is one of the more humbling ones, because
Mhm.
I've had the same conversation with myself about the Cubs. It's like, yeah, we play against at the time, the Cleveland Indians, now the Guardians. And, we had those conversations about we're going up against the biggest dog in the room. And it was terrifying, especially when you're down 3-1. We're like, man, I don't think we can get through this. But you rally and you figure it out. But for you guys, you're going up against such a young, inexperienced Arizona Diamondbacks team.
Mhm.
Was that the matchup that you were just praying for? Like, did you not want to see a specific team? Did you not want to see the Phillies or the
I mean,
Dodgers?
yeah, of course, there's teams that you don't want to see, right?
Right.
Like when it comes down to it in the World Series, especially if they've made it that far, they beat some pretty good teams to get there, so they must be a pretty good team themselves. I can't say that the Diamondbacks were one of those teams that I was like afraid of,
Mhm.
but like, of course, who wants to see the Braves?
Right.
Right? Who wants to see the Phillies? Like, I'm so grateful that the Phillies shit the. Pardon me.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm so grateful that the Phillies shit the bed and dropped those last two games in Philadelphia, because who wants to see Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola in
Right.
the World Series? Not me.
And we even talk about, like, man, like, especially for the Cubs. The Cubs ended up taking 2 or 3 against the Atlanta Braves, and every single game, whether we were up 7-0 or 10-0, it didn't matter, because I was like, they're
Right.
in this game
No
no
matter
matter what. Like, period. Like, they're always in it with Acuna and Soler at the time and all these different guys.
what.
It was absolutely insane. Soler, obviously, when they won the World Series, but they had so many dogs on that team, and they just continue. Oh yeah, we lost Freddie, but we got Matt Olson, and he's out here just clocking 50 home runs like it's nothing, because he just spent his whole career in Oakland and wants to remind the world that he's still here.
Mhm.
And then there's Matt
Can
Chapman,
I
who,
sidebar real quick?
go ahead.
Related to that Braves team,
Yeah.
I think that is like my X factor for this team. I think that's a huge mistake that they let him go.
Who we talking about? Freddie?
That Jorge Soler is
Oh,
not.
Jorge?
Yeah,
No,
that
it's
Jorge Soler is not in that lineup anymore.
I,
I think that's going to come back to haunt them.
I
That's my
think
that's my hot take for the Braves. The Braves this year.
I'll tell you what, and I think I'm with you, but I also think bringing in Matt kind of fixes that. Whereas for the Miami Marlins, I'm like, you
Mhm.
lost Jorge, and all you have is Josh Bell and Jake Berger. I'm like, as much as I love Bergster, as much as I love the Bergmeister and Josh Bell, who I was a huge fan of, like, you should have seen me. I was in tears when he was a Pittsburgh Pirate. I just didn't want to deal with it. And shout out to them for not knowing how to run a ball club, because I didn't have to deal with it for too long. But I think, like, when I look at a team like the Miami Marlins, not to get off track, but it's like, who's your guy? Who's your guy pumping out 40 home runs a year? Who's going to be consistently healthy? And Jorge Soler with Jazz and TA and Josh and Jake, I thought, and Luis, can't even count out Luis batting over 350 like it's
Yeah,
nothing. It's like, I thought,
absolute defensive liability, but
right, sure, but when you're batting over 350, I
correct.
think
It
you
doesn't
get a
even matter.
pass,
A young
right?
Christopher Morel.
Oh, don't do that.
I'm
Don't
so
do that.
sorry. I'm
Hey,
so
let me
sorry.
top 10 third baseman by the end of the year, bank it. I
Okay,
promise you.
book it.
I promise
Book
you.
it.
But let's get into that. Let's talk about opening day. Obviously, the ring ceremony. I got to be there in 2017 for the ring ceremony coming out. I mean,
So
Wrigley
I think
Field.
they're doing it actually this year on Saturday.
Exactly. So that's what I was going to ask you. So
I
for
saw
us,
when I was there on Monday for the exhibition game against the Red Sox. I saw them like they were doing all the advertising. I said, okay, that's different. And
right.
it's already kind of weird because of like the planned off day on Friday, which again, that's super weird.
Mhm.
Like opening day and then on actual opening day with all teams in action and then an off day on Friday and
Yeah.
then Saturday, Sunday. That's kind of weird. Uh,
Right.
and could it really kind of end up biting both teams kind of in the butt? It just really depends on. We don't know who the Rangers are starting on Saturday and Sunday, which
You don't.
that's the storyline of the 2024 Texas Rangers
Okay.
is who the hell is going to be pitching the bulk of these innings.
Jack. Please throw Jack in there.
I mean, listen, I would love to see it in the back half of the season, hopefully,
Sure.
assuming that when Scherzer, Molly, and
DeGrom.
DeGrom come
Yeah.
back, assuming that they do come back in June, or was it June, July, and August, respectively? I think
Mhm.
is what was being reported.
Which is
June,
beautiful.
July, and in August is what
Right.
they're reporting. But yeah, that I don't know.
Little shaky there, a little
A
shaky
little
there.
nervous, a little nervous about the state of Rangers pitching. I got to be honest, it didn't get better than it did
No,
last year. It got significantly worse.
I would say it's better in terms of like you having an idea of what the end goal could potentially look like. Like I felt
Mhm.
like a lot of people understood the second you traded for DeGrom and Scherzer that like yeah something's up. Like you knew what they were doing in New York, and it was like they just didn't look like themselves. I think we were all expecting an injury, especially from DeGrom. And Scherzer just
Yeah, everybody, and it sounds terrible, but like people, I don't know why people hate Jacob DeGrom so bad.
I
It's
love
like
him.
he's like the butt of so many people's jokes. It's like, oh, Jacob DeGrom got hurt again, death, taxes, etc. I'm like, that's so foul. What did he ever do to anybody besides be really good at throwing a baseball and like also maybe played for the Mets?
Right.
Like,
World Series champ. I don't care what anybody says. World
dang,
Series
that's
champ.
crazy. That's crazy.
Didn't lift a nail, but whatever. But yeah, I'm
It
excited
still
about it
counts.
nonetheless.
Still counts.
Still
But no,
counts.
the Rangers lost a lot of arms. Say what you will, but like Martin Perez could, when he was on, that man was on. Not a
Right.
great season last season, so I understand why they wanted to let him go. But they lost Will Smith, who, no, he's not a 0.00 ERA guy, but like he can also eat up some innings. Give you about two innings maybe on a bad day, which kind of is really what they had Jose Leclerc doing. And
Right.
he's supposed to be a closer. There's a point when that man was like fighting for his life, trying to get 5 or 6 outs.
For
Um,
sure.
so like they lost a lot of potential innings eaters. Chris Stratton, of course, Jordan Montgomery, who's now with the Diamondbacks, which that breaks my heart because like Ray Davis, owner of the Rangers, we couldn't pony up 25 mil.
Right.
We couldn't pony up 25 mil. I
And
saw.
as someone who all off season long, I dealt with it myself with Cody Bellinger and Scott
Mhm.
Boras. Like I completely understand it, but it's like I felt like, especially with the winning atmosphere, because obviously, you end up going to the D-backs. It's not like you went to St. Louis or the Giants or somewhere where you would have to potentially buy yourself into
Mhm.
thinking maybe we can win a World Series here at some point. Like you went to the team that just went to the World Series that you just beat. So it's like, why even have that conversation? Why even allow those thoughts to exist? To me, if you're the Texas Rangers right now, why not give them a multiple year deal when you have so much uncertainty between, respectfully, your boy Jack,
Mhm.
1
Yes.
year horrible, 1 year great. We really don't know what he's going to look like at the major league level. In the minors, it hasn't been great. DeGrom, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw
Yeah,
him.
I'm not
Like
hitching my wagon to the idea of Jacob DeGrom giving me, a
200 plus
bunch of
innings.
innings and not even if he does come back and is healthy, how can I expect him to be back at like when everybody
The
the
pinnacle
Jacob
of who he
DeGrom
can
that
be.
everyone associates him with being, right?
Right.
Like the Cy Young caliber sub 1 ERA guy. I'm sorry, those days are over.
Don't
I
say
don't
it.
want
Don't
to.
say it.
I'm so sorry. Like, I have to be realistic, right?
Right.
We have to be realistic. I think those days are over. Same with respectfully, love him. I hope he comes back and gives me some greatness and makes me eat my words. But like the days of Max Scherzer, being a sub 2.75 ERA guy are over.
Right. And I think that's
He's
really
almost
the huge
40. He's almost
conversation here.
40. Let's be
Right.
realistic. Not
Right.
everyone is like Justin Verlander, who even now, Father Time is rearing its ugly head. It happens to everybody.
Most
So I
definitely.
can't hitch my wagon to that. You
I'm
know.
with it. I'm with it. But I want to ask you about this because before we get into the ceremony as a whole, we're kind of already talking about the off season, and I think it's really important to break that down. Jordan Montgomery leaves. Obviously Corey's the man. You got so many other Garcia, and all of them are great.
Mhm.
Um, Wyatt Langford.
Oh,
Wyatt Langford's been somebody who I've been watching for a long time since Florida,
mhm.
and just breaking that down. College baseball. Shout out to In Off the Bench podcast. Always breaking it down for us. Always talking about it. Randy, DB, and Jim do amazing things over there. And they give us the perspective of who Wyatt Langford can be. And Jim was one of those guys that told me right off the bat, Wyatt's starting in 2024. He's
Mhm.
making it right off the bat. We didn't know what was going to happen with Jackson Holiday for whatever reason. They don't want to start him on opening day is wild to me. There's money involved that goes with that,
The
and
service time manipulation goes crazy. And
100%.
we talked about it earlier, right? You said they're real big on prospects over parades up in Baltimore.
Hmm.
Deeply
Hmm.
unserious. Why didn't you go sign Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery?
Right.
Like, I'm so sorry. I'm not set on this like rotation that they have right now, especially without Kyle Bradish.
I'm
I'm
rocking with it.
not buying
I'm
it.
disagreeing with you. With Corbin Burns, I know Corbin Burns very
Corbin
well.
Burns is a solid.
Dog.
Absolutely, but like I'm not sold on that rotation in the state. You need one more
Sure.
big guy, and the fact that you weren't in on Blake Snell, especially with considering the deal that he got, you weren't in on Blake Snell, you weren't in on Jordan Montgomery. That just seems silly to me.
No, most definitely, most definitely. So, but when we get into Wyatt, right now, your realistic expectations, he's one of the favorites for rookie of the year right now. Where are you in this World Series studded lineup expecting him to finish the year?
I maybe it's a bold take. And shout out to my girl Kennedy Landry, MLB.com. She's a beat writer for the Rangers. We kind of had the same prediction. It would not be shocked if he's an MVP candidate. I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes top 5 NL MVP or AL MVP candidate. Wouldn't shock me at all. He has a lot of upside. And of course, listen, everybody falters at some point throughout the season, but that man, and again, it's a small sample size because spring training, there aren't that many games. But that man was in like the top 4 of like every category throughout MLB for spring training stats.
Right.
1100 OPS, 1100 plus OPS, like 365 batting average.
And I will say the important thing with what you're saying though is he got a lot more at bats than I feel like a lot of major league players did right now. I believe he had over 60 at bats where most guys have 35 to 40.
Seager was stumbling in the spring because he had that sports hernia. So
crazy. I couldn't even imagine.
He's gonna be ready to go. My very expensive shortstop is gonna be ready to play.
A sports hernia is crazy though. And Matt, asking me to play 162 games after a hernia is not going. But I think listen, I'm not gonna doubt you. I am on the Wyatt train. I am fully aboard with it. MVP is.
Am I delusional?
Is a great. I think my thing is when I break that down and unpack it, and you're like, okay, well, you have so many big dogs around you. How many RBIs are you really going to be able to get when Acuna's driving in guys, when Alson's driving in guys? If you say for the example for the Braves, you have so many young stars on the Braves. How are guys going to be able to score when you have Austin Riley and company?
So he has the fortune of being on the back half of that lineup.
Right.
Where they're going to slot him in. Now, I am really hoping that Leody Taveras kind of takes a step forward and is able to kind of get on base because he had a problem. He was great, he had flashes of greatness during a point in the season, but like you really need guys like Leody Taveras to be able to keep the momentum going so you can get to Langford in that 8th spot, and I think they're going to slot Jonah Heim, I think, somewhere behind him. So there's really there's no real easy outs in that lineup, kind of like I'm going to throw some shade here, like the Astros, right? Where for whatever reason, Dusty Baker was so high on Martin Maldonado's glove that he refused to play Yainer Diaz at catcher, even though he was by far the better bat. I'm like,
whoa. Dusty slander is crazy.
I love Dusty Baker, but like Dusty respectfully didn't exactly have the best judge of character when it pertained to guys in the lineup. Example one is Martin Maldonado going with his defensive prowess over Yainer Diaz, and then also not starting Chas McCormick for a majority of the season. Why is Jake Myers roaming the outfield when you have a fantastic offensive and, relatively speaking, defensive catcher or defensive center fielder in Chas McCormick? He hated that man. I think they had some kind of beef.
I agree with you because we go through the same things all the time when we talk about it, like why Ian Happ for the Cubs was in the top 3 of the lineup the majority of last season is like, because David Ross loves him, but it's like he's not producing, so just put him down. No, we're gonna make sure he gets 162 games worth of it so he can figure it out towards the last 10 games of the year, and he never did. So it's like we're sitting there and we're like, we have all these different guys. You have the Mike Talkmans, you have the Pete Crow Armstrongs, the Seiya Suzukis, the Cody Bellingers, and for whatever reason,
I mean, listen, Pete Crow Armstrong has some serious potential to come in this season and be probably arguably like top 10 defensive outfielder.
Oh, I'd give him top 5 right now, but
Did
the
you hear
man
what I
can't hit
said?
water if he fell off a boat. That's just what it
Yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah, exactly. You heard what I said, right? Defensive
Yeah, no,
outfielder.
for sure.
It's
And I'm with you. You know, we have
mhm,
so many conversations about that, and I know Pete relatively well working down in Iowa for the time I did, and you know, I feel like not to say it's like going around the league right now, but the ego bug just kind of hits a lot of people. And I think
mhm,
you know when you skip college and you go through all these different situations to where it's like you're flying from single A, double A, triple A so fast, you know, of course you're feeling yourself. But I think at the same time, it's like you're never really in that position to where you just get to sit in it. You just get to be
mhm.
okay. Let me adjust. Let me find these pitches. Let me locate where I need to be and how I need to be there. The timing of it all. You know, and I think Pete, not that he's in over his head, but he's 21 years old. And I'm looking
Yeah.
at him and I'm like, listen, you didn't go to college. Wyatt demolished college baseball.
Mhm.
You know, we look at guys like Jackson Holiday, who, you know, maybe he didn't have the greatest collegiate career. Maybe he didn't have one at all. But here's the
But he
thing.
also has the fortune of who his father is,
Look
and
at
now
his
that
right.
he's correct.
Look at the indoor facility, the pickleball court. Look at all this. You
Correct.
know, there's
That man
levels
was
to it.
set up very well to succeed, right?
Right.
Like you said, not all of these guys are able to come in, like say Juan Soto, because he comes from it's just a background thing, right?
Right.
Your background is kind of everything and lays the foundation for what you do, right? Like that. Juan Soto came in obviously very young, won a World Series when what he was like 20,
Mm-hmm.
what 20 a World Series at 20 in
20,
2019.
20, 20 years old. Bryce Harper couldn't do it for how
Crazy.
long? Is
That's
wild to me.
crazy. But you had guys in the clubhouse saying, "Oh yeah, he's like incredibly mature." You
Mm-hmm.
know, like again, it's just
Of course he
it's
is.
right.
Like,
Of course it
I'm
is.
not mad about it. Like I love Jazz Chisholm. He's an absolute dog, and I think you know Miguel Rojas has to eat his words and eat his crow on everything that happened with that. And I'm excited to see how Tim Anderson's going to take him under his belt because I think that's going to be a phenomenal duo. But you know when we get
Don't lead
into
my
it,
brother astray, Tim. Don't
oh,
lead my brother astray.
Tim's that guy. I trust him. I would. Tim's done so much for the city of Chicago. I
Absolutely.
pray he figures it out. And now I can actually root for him. Like it's so exciting. But with that being said, you know, I want to get into it. We're gonna slide back to opening day real quick.
Mhm.
Cubs versus Rangers. I want to talk to you first about the jerseys. We talked a little bit about it backstage. You know, I remember being there myself. 2017, we're in there. Anthony Rizzo hits the extra innings walk off. It was beautiful. It was freezing, but we got to see the trophy get raised. We got to
Mhm.
see the remaining pieces of the core. No Fowler, which hurt my heart. But and then the gold jerseys. But this year, jerseys are a little different. So take me through what you were telling me backstage about your disgruntlement with the gold jerseys this year and the new material Fanatics put out.
Yeah, I was just a little disappointed when I went into the team store to go check everything out. I'm a big hat girl, so that
Mhm.
was really all I was looking for. And I also collect like pins and stuff. So that's really what I was looking for. I don't really wear jerseys anymore at this stage in my life. I do have some that I like just because I'm a nerd and I like to keep things for the collection. You know,
Right.
gotta pass something down to the kids one of these days. Like oh God, remember when Andrew McCutcheon played for the Phillies? You know, like random stuff like that. But I'm not really a jersey person. But of course, when your team finally wins a World Series for the first time in team history, you want to check everything out. So I was so disappointed at just seeing like the jerseys are now $205, which again, I haven't bought a jersey in a few years, but like I definitely don't remember paying $200 for one, especially one
Right.
that's not like an actual on-field replica,
Replica. Right.
right? Like this is just like the traditional fan jerseys, and it has like the gold insignia and the gold stitching on it and everything. But like, for example, the patches on the arms are heat stamped, the numbers on the back are heat stamped. Like no, you know, like in the older ones, right? It was an actual solid piece of fabric with the number and it was clearly stitched in. They were beautiful. And then I swear I needed like bifocals to see the I'm like, whose jersey is that? It's just everything is so much smaller. And you know, they can give you the whole corporate spiel about how it's supposed to be better for the players because you know they're why do I have to suffer? Why do I have to suffer as I'm not on the field?
Right.
I'm not slotting out and right. I don't need my jersey to feature performance enhancing fabric. Why can't and listen, if anybody has a supply chain to do it, it's Nike and Fanatics. Well, maybe not Fanatics because I'm pretty sure that I ordered something like 3 months ago and it's still not here. Yes, all I got all the slander
What
for
the
free.
hell?
Sorry.
No,
So
you're okay. You're okay. I'm asking them. Where's our stuff? Like, it's
yeah,
crazy.
well, that's a great question. You might want to ask chat support, which I don't even know if that's AI.
Chat support
I
is
don't
a
know
horrible
if they're
time.
like in a different time zone on the other side of the world. I don't know. Because I can never get in touch with someone in a reasonable amount of time. It's
I
ridiculous.
truly believe it's AI. I truly, like, in my heart of hearts, I believe that the first person to figure out AI was Fanatics, because every time I try to talk to someone, it's just like, you're not hearing me, bro. You're not. I
Correct.
don't.
You're making more money than ever, but the jersey, the product looks terrible.
For
It
sure.
looks objectively terrible.
For sure.
So
But so you're still getting one though. That's the answer. You're still
am I
getting
still
one.
getting a jersey? I don't know. Maybe.
The gold. Come on, the gold. At least the gold.
Maybe. I could be persuaded, but I need it to be unbranded on the back. Like, you know how
Mm,
just with the traditional like
right.
jersey with with no one's name, no one's number.
But
Also,
here's what I'm
I'm
thinking though, right?
superstitious about that too. Now that's also why I stopped buying jerseys. I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious.
Right.
Because I feel like every player that I bought a jersey for has left my favorite teams. So I just stopped buying jerseys.
No, for sure. And like, we're gonna get into this later, trust, because I know there's a lot of Chicago cats in here right now talking about the Bears. That's why I'm not buying a Caleb Williams jersey until
Mhm.
he wins a Super Bowl. Because I bought a Trubisky, I bought a Jay Cutler, I bought a Josh McCown, and Nick
Actually, no.
Foles.
Can you buy 2 Caleb Williams jerseys then? I'll buy one myself, actually.
I'm staying
Okay.
away from it. Unless it's pink, I'm staying away from it. But in all seriousness though, I'm listening to what you're saying. You know, the Phillies McCutcheon thing. I think it would be cool if you got a Jacob DeGrom or a Max Scherzer
It's
one,
gotta
just
see, if
because.
I did, it would have to be Adolis Garcia. I
See,
was
but
in on Adolis Garcia before the Rangers were even in on Adolis Garcia. They DFA'd that man in
yep.
February 2021. I'll never forget it because I was reading down the transactions. I'm like, I think that's a mistake. That's a
Shout out to the Cardinals for even letting that happen in the
thank
first
you,
place.
thank you. Honestly, the fact that they
No,
let
thank you.
Rosarena and Adolis Garcia go
Mhm.
from there. I mean, listen, we don't always bat 1,000, right? But those are some crucial missteps.
No, for sure. And I'm so happy they were missed. I mean, it just makes me great. It just makes me so happy. I'm so happy about it. It just, like, any chance I get to mention that. So
Mhm.
thank you for being here because I get to talk about that. Shout out to the Cardinals.
Absolutely.
And I hope they're enjoying Wilson Contreras. But with that being said, I think just me, outside listener, you want to talk about, show these to your grandkids, show these to the people in the future, be like, hey, check this out. I got a World Series champ who didn't throw a single pitch for the team. And you're like, what? And it's like, but it's a legend, you can't even be mad at it. Okay,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
Jacob
that one
DeGrom.
is on sale on clearance on the Fanatics website in like 2.5 years. Just like the I have an Eric Hosmer Kansas City Royals gold
Don't say
stitch.
that name to me. Don't say that name to me.
He's
I,
retired.
oh,
You can't let that
oh,
demon haunt you anymore.
I said, oh, that half a season, just like, man, Trey Mancini and Eric Hosmer at first base every single day was like, while Matt Mervis is hitting 40 bombs in AAA, I was just like,
Nasty business.
what are we doing? I just looked at Rossi. I was like, what are we doing? And then we got Edwin Rios is over there just hanging out, just like at third
Dodgers
base.
legend Edwin Rios. Put
I
some
mean,
respect on his name.
what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? Come on, Edwin. We got Christopher Morel just waiting for his opportunity to show Courtney that he's a top 10 third baseman in the league, and he just never got it.
Offensively, that's entirely possible.
I think both ways.
Offensively,
Both ways.
absolutely.
Both
I
ways
need
is a
to be.
dog.
I need to see otherwise.
We're gonna get you to Wrigley Field, and we're gonna show you firsthand Christopher Morel
Unless
at
I'm
third
trying to
base.
pull up in June. I can't let there be like any
Go for it.
possibility of snow.
Oh
I
no,
can't
yeah,
risk that.
it's don't come right now. Last week it was 70, today it is 30. It's a weird vibe going on right now. But let's talk about it. We getting into it. It's the time where we're not friends anymore. We got opening day, Cubs versus Rangers. I want a real opinion because I'm biased. I think there's a
Oh no, no,
shot.
no! I can 100% deliver my unbiased opinion on this
Oh,
series.
I see. I can't because
Oh, I
I'm
can.
in my mind.
I'm not a listen. We're the reigning world champs.
Oh, don't do
Like
this.
I have nothing to lose.
See, but
I
for
have nothing to
me,
lose.
I'm looking at the way we're moving right now. I'm seeing the position of Craig Counsell that he's putting everybody in. I'm
Mhm.
seeing a order from 1 to 9. I have no doubt, especially shout out Patrick Wisdom because he's been on the pod before. But now that Wiz is out of the lineup, I think that's even better because you're looking at a guy who's sub 200 batting average every
Mhm.
year. But
So speaking of, let's look at this lineup and
it's
correct
go
me.
ahead, go ahead,
I
read
have
it
my
for me.
projected lineup, but tell me if this is like is this is right.
Okay,
Nico Horner at second,
okay,
leading off. Is this correct? You tell me. You're the Cubs guy.
I would say it's up in the air right now between what. Here's the problem. Craig Counsell's here now, and I don't know what he wants to do with Mike Talkman. He was the leadoff last year,
I thought
and
he was going to be in the 9 hole.
see, last year he was great at the leadoff spot. So
Mhm.
I don't know what exactly the plan is there with Nico. Throughout spring training, I've seen it both ways. I've seen Talkman start some games. I've seen Ian start some games, which I don't even know why.
Mhm.
And then they're trying to, like, it's 2017. Like, what are we doing? And then I've seen Nico some games. So I'm curious to see what that lineup looks like opening day. But you're not, I would say it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, Nico at second, Dansby at short, Ian left, in left, which is, yeah, we can
Whatever.
Go.
Gold Glover, not mad at him.
Correct. Cody Bellinger at first. Is that what we're doing?
At this point right now, Cody Bellinger is in center field. Garrett Cooper.
Who's playing? Garrett Cooper's playing
So
first?
Garrett Cooper was on a minor league 1-year deal, and he's making the opening day roster,
I
and
saw
he's
that.
definitely not making it just to come off the bench. So I think he's playing first base. He's been pretty solid thus far. He hasn't been a liability whatsoever.
So where does that put Mike Talkman?
I think that's the conversation: is he DHing, or where do you want to put him in this lineup? And that's really because
Michael Bush not going to be your DH?
that's the problem. I can't figure out what's happening with them at this point in time because it's like there's so many different ways they can go depending on matchups. And I think that's really how this team is going to be played this season. I think there's a lot of great guys. Like, of course, even looking at Seiya Suzuki, talk about him, kid. He's got over a 450 batting average right now, over 6 home runs. He's one shy of the spring training tie right now for most home runs. I mean, he's been an absolute monster coming off year 2, 285 batting average, 20 home runs. I'll tell you what, if Seiya Suzuki didn't get an oblique injury in the World Baseball Classic with Team Japan last spring, and he was able to be a part of spring training, I think you're looking at a guy who's batting 290, maybe even close to 300. So, to me, Seiya Suzuki is the MVP of the Chicago Cubs offense in 2024, and I'm excited about it.
Season goes, excuse me, the season goes the way Seiya Suzuki season goes and Shota's season.
Ooh.
Those are my two big guys that, like, the way your season goes is dependent on how well both of those guys do. Again, of course, the onus and is never on any one team, but like in a very there's potential to be a pretty crowded wild card hunt this year.
Oh, and especially when, like, no disrespect, because I didn't think they were going to have a drop off. Obviously, they just made it to the World Series, but Jordan Montgomery joining the D-backs kind of changes a lot.
There's a lot of divisions that have like 3 teams in it. You got the NL East. You got, listen, I'm kind of maybe a little bit more high on the Mets than I should be. That's maybe a little, I'm sipping a little.
My guy German Mike Powers would love you. They're diehard Mets fans, but they're in full tank mode. So I think that I don't think
that's the thing. I don't know if I believe that yet.
I do.
I don't know if I believe that yet. I think the Mets, again, just with the expanded playoffs, I think. I mean, listen, if the Braves and the Phillies sit up there and beat up on each other, like just like kind of like slide in the back door, pause.
Resume.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there to. The Mets could be an interesting team. The Mets could be an interesting team. That's all I'm saying.
I like the take. I'll give you one just because we're throwing it out there. Throw us both in the fire, put us at the stake. Don't matter. I think right now the only team that's really rocking with the Chicago Cubs in the NL Central right now is the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm really excited about the Pirates. You got Paul Skeens.
I said the Reds. I was talking to Shakia Taylor.
I love the Reds. They're so much fun. They stole Jamer from us, so it's like whatever. But I think it's one of those things for me. If you look at the Pirates last year, you lose O'Neal Cruz early on. They still somehow win 77 games. At some point in 2024, our guy who's been on the pod before, Paul Skeens, is going to be there. And let me tell you something about Paul. He is just as terrifying when he's on your team as when he's not on your team. That man is loaded. He is ready to go. He is one of the toughest cats mentality-wise and physical specimen-wise that I've ever met. Paul Skeens being a part of that. Obviously, we talk about the Wyatt Langfords and the Jackson Holidays, but Paul Skeens is ready. And when you see a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who handled Garrett Cole so well in his development, I'm excited to see him join that rotation. O'Neal Cruz, who, we talk about Ellie De La Cruz, but O'Neal Cruz was Ellie before Ellie. And that's really what it was. He just hasn't been healthy enough to been able to show that. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. I mean, you have absolute athletic monsters in the NL Central right now. And then you have the Milwaukee Brewers. But, I think at the end of the day, the Pittsburgh Pirates are a team to me that, you win 77 games last year. You continue to get better. You get healthy. I think they could be in the wild card conversation.
So I was pulling up your schedule. Sorry, I wasn't trying to look.
No, go ahead.
Trying to pull up the Cubs schedule. And
it's a solid schedule.
I mean, yeah. I'm just looking through. So when does Jameson Taillon come back?
So Taillon's in this position right now to where he's not on the 60-day, but he's also kind of just play it by ear. I would say the next 2-3 weeks, you get a better idea of where he's at. Patrick Wisdom, both dealing with back injuries right now. Craig Counsell said it's concerning. So I haven't heard much about that after the fact. I think it's going to be more of an issue for him. And I think that's why when you look at the opening day roster, Miles Mastrobuoni and Nicky Two Strikes, Nick Madrigal, Dalian Kid, he makes the roster. And I think a big part of that is because of guys like Patrick Wisdom who weren't able to make it. And to be completely honest with you, Court, I didn't, as much as I love him because that's my guy. I think after what we've seen over the last 365 days, I didn't even think Pat should have been a part of the team going into this year. When I look at guys like, let's look at Alexander Canario, who's starting in AAA.
Exactly. When you said you lost Candelario, I was like, yeah, but you got Alex Canario over there. Like,
I love Canario. Canario's a dog. It's just so unfortunate. Like, I'm gonna break it down for anybody listening because I see the chat right now. Everyone's talking about PCA. The big thing right now, and if you've ever worked in baseball or played baseball at any level, whether it's writing or whatever, I don't even care if you were the bat boy, you understand development. And the problem is with Canario right now is I don't want him on this roster unless he's playing every single day, period. Yeah. And it's one of those problems to me where it's like, he would be great off the bench for the Cubs. He's ready right now. I think he'd be more consistent than Miles Mastrobuoni or a guy like Nick Madrigal. But when you are developing a player who you think could be a cornerstone piece to either corner in your outfield, you need him playing every single day. You need him getting consistent at bats, whether you're going to trade him later on, like a Kevin Alcantara or a Pete Crow Armstrong, Owen Casey, who the face of the franchise. Don't ever disrespect Owen Casey. Everybody in my chat's been going crazy on Owen Casey. I love the kid. Red-haired monster. But, I think at the end of the day, Alex is in a perfect situation. I'll say Alexander. I don't want to call him Alex. I don't know if he likes that. Alexander's in a perfect situation right now to where just hang out. Your time is coming. If Ian Happ has a shit season, then we figure it out very quickly. If Mike Tauchman looks horrible, we figure it out very quickly. I don't want you DHing. I know you can be a cornerstone to this outfield. And, especially very early on this season, he spent the beginning of last season injured that he suffered. I forget in what league he suffered that in, but he was playing winter ball and just absolutely obliterated his leg. So yeah, just put a full season of body work together. You don't want to see 0 for 10 in September like we did with Pete Crow Armstrong. Same with Pete. Pete, we love you, but Cody's back. Seiya is a monster, and for whatever reason, Ian Happ loves left field. So I think at the end of the day, both of them are in great positions.
He's got some fans and some friends in those bleachers.
Oh man, he's Ian's. Listen, let me tell you, Ian is an amazing guy. I mean, he is a stand-up guy. The Compound Podcast is great. He is. Shout out to him. He just got married. He's an amazing individual. But like, I'm over it. We had those conversations about Justin Fields earlier in the offseason, and it was like Justin's an amazing person as well. But it's like, how far am I going with you in this current constructed roster? So I want your opinion. First series, how many games are you taking? How many games are we losing? Where are you at right now as it pertains to Justin Steele and the Chicago Cubs in Texas?
Yeah. So I'm a little conflicted.
Can't mess with Man of Steel now.
And only for both teams. Obviously, I hate to be all cliche, but
of course,
nothing is won, the first series of the season, right? And nothing is lost in the first series of the season. But I'm looking at it because I'm thinking it's not a big deal
Right.
for per se, just because of that built-in off day, it's not a huge deal if either starter gets shellacked, right? Like, still kind of shaking the rust off a little bit
Right.
from
I
the
mean,
spring.
look at Yamamoto. You know
Because
what I
you
mean? Like,
can go to the bullpen, you can use those guys. There's a built-in off day, and then you're going to go into Saturday and Sunday. Admittedly, I think it's worse for the Rangers just because obviously their rotation's already a little bit shaky. In my mind, I think probably John Gray is probably going to be slated to start against Kyle Hendricks on Saturday, which, if I'm being respectfully,
oh no,
it might be that time.
for
Like
Kyle.
I hate to get all morbid, but
Yeah.
there's a book that I loved as a kid that made me cry like a dog called Old Yeller. I don't know if I'm not saying that Kyle Hendricks
You
is
want to take
old.
him to the back of the barn?
I'm just saying that again, it's not one start does this
Right.
make, but and that's kind of the Cubs pitcher's MO, which he is able. You're not Cubs aren't really, in my opinion at least, you don't really have a whole lot of like heat throwers. You don't have a whole lot of flamethrowers, but you got a lot of guys in your rotation that are incredibly crafty.
Right. Ground ball contact makers.
Like, I'm big on Jordan Wicks. Jordan
Love
Wicks has like 4 or 5 different pitches in his arsenal. Fantastic pitcher. Right. He's not going to be sitting up there throwing 100, but like he'll get you out with a filthy changeup.
Right. And we talked about it, we talked about it so early on. And this is a guy that we got obviously in the trading of the core. I thought if he finished the season healthy, I don't know how much you were looking at him. Killian was, I almost said Williams. Caleb Killian was absolutely dominant in his first few starts. He was one of the best pitchers in the Cubs. And obviously he has an elbow injury, puts him on the 60-day IL. And that was unfortunate. But like you mentioned, we look at the prospects all the time. Cade Horton's on his way. Ben Brown, shout out to Ben. He's always checking in on the pod with us.
Did he who made the was it
Javier Assad made it.
Yeah.
So right now, in no order. Well, obviously, number one, there's an order. Justin Steele is going to be our ace. And then you have after that Shota Imanaga, Jordan Wicks, Kyle Hendricks. And because of Tyone, Javier Assad got the nod. They put Drew Smiley in the bullpen, which I hate because on those short start days, you're going to have him go 2 innings and then just throw in a random starter. And
but
it's
I
like,
also don't hate it because I'm pretty sure he's the only lefty in your bullpen.
Sure.
I think he's like your only lefty in your bullpen.
I don't know. I'm tweaking out right now.
Merriweather is a righty.
Is Luke Little a lefty?
Oh, that's right. He
is a lefty. I had to make sure. Yeah,
okay,
Luke Little's a lefty.
Now you have 2. Yeah, that's right. Wasn't he the last one that came? The last guy that over Ben Brown, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Luke is and Ben is my guy.
Now you have 2. Ben Brown. Yeah. You have 2 lefties now in that bullpen, which is nice. So before Drew Smiley was the only lefty.
Yeah, Ben is somebody that I love to death, and we've had a great relationship with him on the pod, and I always tell him, like, I will never go out there and slander your name because Ben is just an absolute monster. The potential of Ben Brown is absolutely insane. I was thinking towards September, August, if he didn't get injured in AAA, I don't think you see a Jordan Wicks. I think they would have gave that nod to Ben Brown. And that was really where I was at with it. And I'm happy it went to Jordan because I actually, very quickly was like, okay, maybe Jordan's more ready than I thought. But I think had he gotten that nod as well, you're looking at, man, forget Hayden Wesneski, forget Caleb Killian. Like, it's Ben Brown's time before. Obviously, Cade Horton, one of the top 100 prospects in baseball. Super excited about Cade Horton. We have a huge bullpen that's ready. And luckily enough for Kyle, it's just not right now. You know what I mean? Like, they're a year or 2 away. So Kyle, last dance, I'm excited for it. I'm here for it. Last year, if you ever got a chance to check it out, there were a couple instances where he almost threw a no-hitter. I believe one was against the Giants.
No, I'm familiar.
Yeah, but there were other starts as well where, I was just kind of like, Kyle.
But again, that's why for me, this season is one of those I got to see how this shakes out. But as far as the series itself, for me, especially, it's going to depend on Saturday. For Saturday, for me, I think the Rangers are going to win on Thursday. I do think the Rangers are going to win, riding high on that very loud sellout crowd. Defending world champions. I do think the bats come alive, and it's going to be a great Rangers win. Saturday is the question: what kind of start are we going to get out of John Gray? I don't think obviously anyone's trying to have any of these guys throw more than like 5 innings, right?
Right.
Unless they have, an obscene, amount of like less amount of pitches,
Right.
right?
Talking like 50 pitches over 6
Yeah,
innings,
yeah,
sure. Like,
yeah. Some that which would be crazy
right.
and improbable, but entirely possible.
Right. We're playing MLB The Show
But
over
yeah,
here.
for me,
Maybe there's a
anything
chance.
yeah, that Saturday start with John Gray. How many innings can he give me? And does he get lit up?
Right.
Is he gonna get
I
lit
think he
up?
does. I really think he does. Now the question is, how much does Kyle give up? You know what I mean? I think that's the conversation we've been having this entire time. Is trying to figure out, where these guys are going to be come the end of the season, and I think what the starting rotation could look like. Listen, respectfully, I'm not excited for Jameson Tyone to come back whatsoever. Like, cool,
Yeah,
like
he is a guy.
solid. Yeah,
He
you're a guy. Like,
is a guy.
congratulations. That's
Oh,
really
he's
it.
not great, but like
Right.
he'll eat some innings.
Sure. Give up a few home runs, but
Correct.
it's really where I'm at with him. And a great second half of last year, but if you remember the first half was just like, what
Not
did we
ideal.
do? Like, what did we do? Like, it was so bad. And I'm just like looking at it and I'm like, man, we're kind of stuck with this one for a while. You might have to, I don't even know if you can pawn that off for, a prospect paired up with him or something. But, I think it's going to be interesting. But before we switch over to the prettiest topic that there is in all of the podcast world right now, Wyatt Langford, MLB debut.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have him going? Let's say 3-4 at bats. We're not going to, predict how many at bats he gets, but let's just give it an idea. Do you think it's a memorable performance in the home opener?
I would say so. I say so. Again, I just basing it off the couple of games that we've had already this week. The man has insane plate discipline. On Monday, he had, I think, 2 walks. On Tuesday, in that start against the Red Sox, he had a walk and 2 doubles. So, like, the potential is already there. Insane plate discipline, and the man can mash. There were even a couple. I think he had a couple of outs that were like on the warning track. Like the man's carries a big bat. I think it's gonna. I'm telling you, it sounds crazy because obviously he is a rookie and there's a lot for him to learn. And of course he's gonna have some slumps. I'd be surprised if he didn't, but I do think that this man's gonna have an MVP caliber season.
No, most definitely. I'm totally there with you. I think the big thing for me about Wyatt is just opportunity. And if you ever listen to G-Eazy in the Bay, opportunity costs. And I think understanding, the situation that you're in right now is
Mhm.
there are so many dogs around you. I remember there is no comparison between the two and the value
Mhm.
that they had. But Ian Happ in 2017, Rizzo, Bryant, Baez,
Mhm.
Schwartz, Contreras, all these guys are around you. Let's even say Jason Hayward's name just because I love him as the person. But you're looking at that and you're like, okay, how many opportunities am I truly going to get
Mhm.
bringing in runs? How many opportunities am I going to get a walk-off home run? Like at the end of the day, you might not even get an opportunity just because Corey Seager bats in front of you and, now, oh, he just hit a walk-off. Now I don't get my 4th
Yeah.
plate appearance. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think at the end of the day, what it's going to come down to for me is that dog. We always talk about it's a segment we're going to start doing on the pod throughout the season. And I hope you're back on the pod so we can continue to talk about
Absolutely, I'll be back.
dogs of the week. And we also have our Charmin Soft player of the week. So, we have a lot of different ways we're going to go about it. Wyatt's got that dog in him without a doubt. But something I want to talk to you about before we get you in here, I need a woman's perspective because when I say it, I get judged. Caleb Williams, the projected #1 overall pick to the Chicago Bears. Now, I am over it. I sat in my shower, I laid down and I just sat in hot water and said, all right, Jay,
This is what we're doing.
I love you, but it's over, and I don't look good in black and yellow. This is no Wiz Khalifa special. So I can't rock out those threads, but I'll always support you. I got to rock out with this kid now. That's my guy. I am in the CW era. I am ready for it, but we don't talk about his ego. We don't talk about his mentality or what he can bring. I want to paint a picture to you for everybody who's watching. Juju Watkins and the USC Trojans are doing that thing. I'm talking about the hottest thing since Pants with Pockets. Juju Watkins is a phenomenal freshman, all pro. I mean, absolute monster. In the middle of March Madness, the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft is there representing in his school. He's an alumni. He can be there. Instead of talking about the #1 overall pick representing women's sports, instead of talking about Juju Watkins or literally anything. You could have even talked about his father. Instead, today, Courtney, you and I have to sit up here and talk about Caleb Williams' pink cell phone that is going viral right now. His quote unquote lip gloss. I cannot confirm nor deny. Nor do I.
That man's probably got on some Aquaphor.
Yeah, and nor do.
And even if he does, listen,
Nor do I care if he's wearing.
Find a little eccentricity. No one was saying nothing. Well, maybe they were, right? I'm not old enough when Lawrence Taylor was wearing his little earring.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, let the men be sassy.
Right.
Let the men be sassy.
And Courtney, really quickly, who's Machine Gun Kelly dating right now?
Megan Fox, an absolute smoke show.
Painted fingernails, pink hair, mohawk, leather pants. Like, I'm not mad.
Women love sassy men. I'm going to tell you that now. It's like a little built-in BFF.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, for the record, I am good. But like, if you like it, I love it.
Yeah, women love sassy men unless your name's Trevor Bauer, then they hate you, and rightfully so. But I think at the end of the day, he's a sassy man that just is not valid. It's more of bitchy than sassy. But I think, for me, when I look at Caleb Williams and I see the painted fingernails and I see the pink phone and I see the way he carries himself, me as a Bears fan, I come from Chicago. I'm not from Aurora. I'm not from Naperville. I'm not from Evanston.
Not Naperville catching a stray. That's crazy.
Hey, you know what?
That's crazy.
Shout out Jewel Lloyd, but I'm sorry. But I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to for me is we're from the Chi, and we move the way we move, and you either gotta get out the way or get moved. But with Caleb Williams at Soldier Field, I will say this today: if he ends up winning an MVP, if he takes us to the Super Bowl, I promise you, people pull up to that game with painted fingernails. I promise
100%. People will. It sounds terrible. People will buy whatever you sell them.
Sure.
Right. As long as you prove that you can deliver results alongside your antics, it's all good.
There's two sides to it. I think you either just like we saw against Utah. You got fuck Utah painted on your fingernails. Shout out Utah. But you lose to Utah twice.
Correct.
So it's like if you have fuck Green Bay painted on your fingernails, part of my language, but if that's what it says, and then you throw a pick to Jair Alexander to lose the game, it's going to be a problem.
Living that down.
But
if
you win that game for the first time, we haven't beaten Green Bay since December 2018.
Walking around with the fingernails, saying all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, because again, people like to back winners. Right. And that's why for me, kind of not pivoting away, but like I've said it once and I'll say it again. I don't think it's unreasonable for me to expect Caleb Williams to have a better season than CJ Stroud with all of the opportunities and the weapons that surround Caleb Williams. Again, we have to keep in mind that the Chicago Bears don't have the number one pick because they had a terrible season last season.
7 wins.
Chicago Bears won 7 games last season.
Could have won 10. Statistically, the worst breakdowns in the fourth quarter 3 times from Matt Eberflus. I ain't going to forget it. Could have won 10 games, almost made the playoffs.
And then now you're in a situation where you have every opportunity to succeed. You have a top 10 tight end. You have 2 wide receiver ones. You just got DeAndre Swift.
Top 10 defense.
Top 10 defense. Your offensive line.
They're all right. They're there. They're better. I'll say that.
It's serviceable.
It's like, when you're dating someone, early on and your boys aren't rocking with it or your girls aren't rocking with it. And they're like, how are they? Better. Making improvements, like working on themselves. They're trying to get there. Cody Whitehair's gone, so it's gone.
He's in quite literally the best position of any rookie quarterback that has been drafted in the first round as the first pick.
Ever.
I
would say ever.
I'm not trying to be like hyperbolic, but like, yeah.
Right. And I want to hit that on the head because people in the chat are like, what are you talking about? So I think the conversation is the number one overall pick bet situation. Like Patrick Mahomes, of course, you get Andy Reid, Alex Smith, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, even Kareem Hunt at that time. You're in a much better situation than the Bears are right now. But for the number one overall pick,
which historically goes to an absolute terrible team, right? We see Bryce Young floundered in a terrible situation.
I don't think it's gotten any better either. So,
I mean,
hey, but Clowney though, hey, Brian Burns, who? We got Clowney. Don't worry about it.
Was it 2 years, 20 million or something like that?
Something crazy. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I won't lie to anybody. I looked at it. I went, Okay, and I didn't even read it. I was
Yeah,
just like,
okay. No, it's
okay.
absolute straight face.
Like Brian Burns was like, whatever, bro. But
But no,
listen.
I know CJ didn't throw a lot of picks, but like again, I
Oh
don't
wait,
think it's
what? 5
unrealistic.
picks?
Yeah, he threw 5 picks, which again,
Crazy.
I don't think it's that's picks are one of those iffy stats for
Right.
quarterbacks because like all it takes is someone blowing on the ball the
Oh,
wrong
I
way.
mean, half of Justin's picks were
You're getting picked
taps
off, right?
from Byron
But like
Pringle or
I
Velus
don't
Jones.
yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable for me to expect that this guy who have and listen, no, that's no disrespect to CJ Stroud, but no one really was besides like the Texans, right? I know David Tepper said, I really wanted or whoever wanted to draft CJ Stroud, but David Tepper was really in on Bryce Young because he's friends with Nick Saban, and he sold him on Bryce Young, whatever. But like, I don't think I'm being unreasonable.
No,
They're up there calling this man generational. He's
right,
a generational quarterback. They have been. He's a Heisman winner. He
right.
has been. This is his label. This is his brand. And now you're coming into a situation with a team that won 7 games last season.
It's
Listen,
beautiful.
I don't think I'm being crazy. I don't think I'm being unrealistic at all.
I don't think so either. And listen, of course, it doesn't matter what I think in this situation because I'm always going to say Bears to the moon. But I think at the end of the day, like there will be two things that go through my mind in 2024. It's either going to be, wow, Ryan Poles is the best GM in NFL history, or it's going to be, I really would have wondered what Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Justin Fields would have looked like. And that's really what it comes down. There's no like,
Like, think about the historical haul that you could have
oh,
possibly brought back if you traded that number 1 pick to somebody
right.
else.
And
Like,
I'm curious if we ever hear from Ryan. I know he was just on the Pat McAfee show, but I'm
no.
curious if he can ever break down, hey man, did
Oh yeah,
anybody did anybody offer you something?
he'll break it down for you, but probably only if Caleb Williams goes on to
Right.
have
Right.
an amazing.
If he ends up a bust, you're not gonna be like 5 first and Terry McLaurin. Yeah, but we
Correct.
said
Yeah, they're
no.
not going to tell you, if he sucks, right?
No,
But they'll
for sure.
absolutely tell you if Caleb Williams pans out and is, the prince that was promised as
I
their
like that. I
donut.
like that. The prince that was promised. That's crazy. But no, I agree. I think like I always say, I love Justin. Justin and I are the same age. I've been watching him since when I played ball, playing
Oh, he's
safety,
great. Yeah.
whatever. Like we used to type in Max Prep Sports every Sunday night and look at Trevor Lawrence and guys like Michael Parsons and Justin Fields. That's what we did. Like all the ballers would do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in this position right now to where I say, if I didn't have this opinion, if this was 2020 and we had just moved on from Mitchell Trubisky, I would be doing backflips from the start of the offseason, not through this, am I in, am I out? Like
Yeah.
I would be hugely in on him. And that's where your point is. Most situations where you go into with the number 1 overall pick, there is no established quarterback. So it's easily, yeah, we're drafting Baker. We're drafting Trevor. We're drafting whoever. And that's just the situation. So for the Bears, it's upsetting that it's like we won 7 games with it. Well, really, you won like 5 because I know Tyson Bagent won the other 2. Shout out to him. As of today, he's QB1. Shout out to him for the next 30 days. He's QB1.
That's nasty.
Shout out to him.
That's
He
nasty.
outlasted Justin Fields. Shout out to him. Never would have thought.
That's even nastier.
It's wild to me when we have these conversations. But I think today I would sit here and say that I'm ecstatic about my bad B, as NFLmemes.com posted, my bad B QB1. I'm hype about it. I'm excited. If you have an ego,
We're
if
twin
you
flames. I got the lavender phone.
come on, stop playing. I'll tell you what, if
True.
he throws 30 touchdowns, I get a pink phone too. I do
Facts.
not
But
care.
that's what I'm saying. People will buy into it once they realize that, like, oh shit, this works. Like the Dennis Rodman-esque,
Oh, come on.
dramatics. Hell
And
yeah.
like no one said a word about Dennis, and it was because he was
I met
winning.
him a couple of weeks ago, actually.
How was that?
When I was in Houston, it was so random. Shout out Dennis Rodman. Honestly, it was one of like the coolest celebrity interactions I've ever had.
Okay.
It was hella random. We were down in Houston for the rodeo. We stopped to have brunch at like a random brunch place. We just picked somewhere, and it wasn't like packed. Anyway, I hear someone's voice, but I don't turn around because like that's not my. I'll mind my business. Okay.
Mm.
In walks this giant man, walks to the bar, and when I tell you, like this man had on a T-shirt that
Yup.
had his face on it,
Yup.
like like the '90s screen print that all the kids are wearing these days, and it said Dennis Rodman. Actually, I saw him wearing the same T-shirt when he went back to the Bulls game a couple of weeks ago. He was wearing the exact same outfit. I swear to God that he wore to brunch. Great guy. Shout out Dennis
Fit
Rodman.
of the week. Fit of the week.
Absolute legend.
Courtney, we appreciate you being here. Before you get out of here, I want you to plug in anything you got going on, any networks you're working with, or your IG, social medias, anywhere anybody can find you.
Absolutely. So you guys can follow me at 1-800-Colobro on the Bird app. Also on Instagram. I refuse to call it by that letter. Is Daddy called it Twitter? I'm going to call it Twitter or the Bird app. Also on I'm Not Gonna Hold You. We do me specifically. I like to talk about baseball. Of course, I like to talk about football as well. So the Barber's Chair Network with H&B Media. Shout out to those guys. We record on Mondays and Fridays. We are live at 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. So tap in with us there this season for all things baseball, football, draft coverage, etc.
Most definitely. Most definitely. We appreciate you being here. Appreciate everybody who tuned in today. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that follow button to the Give Us a Shot Network. You're going to be able to check us out daily. Germ, Bert, Corey, Mike Powers, so many others with so many more amazing shows than mine because we just getting off the jump. We just getting off the jump. But it was an amazing start sitting here with Court today. I'll see you after the series. I'm coming back and we taking the sweep. I'm telling you right now.
Hey, that's bold. Listen, if you guys can get through the gauntlet of like April and early May,
it's over.
Oh, it's over for the Central. It's over for the Central.
But until then, we'll have to stick with you guys to let you keep you up to date. Everything Chicago Cubs. We got opening day kicking off in less than 24 hours. Gonna be a blast. Don't forget it's a night game. Don't wake up at 1:15, hungover. You got all night to figure it out. Until then, we are in there like swimwear. I'll check y'all out later. Peace.